this is just going to be an recording in progress. So this is just going to be an overview of the report. I trust that everybody has a copy and has reviewed a copy. And if you don't have a copy and you need a copy, you can let me know on the chat so I can email you after this call a copy. The Palau, and sorry, I'm Yvonne, in case you don't know me, fisheries project manager for our projects here in Palau and Micronesia, but primarily the work that I'm focusing on our work here in Palau until in the coming 2 years. So so the report, it's not very long. It's quite short. It was commissioned by the Office of the President, and the purpose of the report was to look into invasive species work in Palau, and I guess identify some challenges and opportunities that we need to be focusing in addressing invasive species in Palau. This was done through engagement and consultation with stakeholders and experts that have worked in Palau. We didn't have a lot of time to work on this, so this is really high level, I would say, and some outsiders' point of view, perspective in reviewing everything that's been done in Palau in the past until today, and so we hope that the report has submitted to the Office of the President, the Office of the Minister of MAFE, will help guide work as decisions are being made moving forward. The report is really focused on or has special attention on rats, mosquito, fruit flies, and rhinoceros beetles. And its impact to human health, food security, economy, and biosecurity. There is that sort of a snapshot of the table of context. It just provides the background information of what has been done in Palau over the past years, the work that Miles have been working on, and people at BOA have been working over the past several years until today. And then it goes into looking into specifics of mosquito, rats, and cats, CRB, and fruit flies. And then it provides, in those sections, it sort of gives an overview of what has been done, and then provides some sort of recommendations of what needs to be done in those specific areas or species, invasive species. So I just wanted to provide some highlights on the challenges toward the implementation of invasive work in Palau. This is what part of my role in this report was consulting local agencies and partners that have been working in invasive species work in Palau. So I did some consultation with key people, and some of them are POA, PCS, Coral Reef Foundation, PICRIC, for state government, and some of the and the Bureau of Environment. So those are some of the agencies that I personally had consultation with. And these are just the highlights of themes that sort of came up of the challenges regarding implementation of work that has been done in Palau. A lot of issues came around awareness of IAS issues in Palau. There's been a lot of work, but very few awareness work or less focus on awareness work was one of the things that was mentioned a lot in the interviews and discussions that I had with some of the agencies. Identification of invasive species priorities at a national level. There are different sectors that we consulted, and so each of the sectors have their own priorities, but there's no really a national level priority of invasive species that we can use as a guideline to sort of develop our strategies in terms of invasive species effort in Palau. Biosecurity was one of the main things that was sort of identified and continued to be important in the work of invasive species moving forward. Human capacity, technical experts, and coordination and collaboration. Coordination and collaboration, I found very interesting that there's a lot of good work that's happening on the ground, but there's really not a lot of coordination, and I think it's just because NISC has not been very active over the past several years. And so moving forward, this is something that NISC can continue to focus and help with the coordination and collaboration among different agencies that are member to NISC. Sustainable financing was one of the issues that was identified, and infrastructure and facilities were also identified as some of the challenges that were mentioned over and over by different agencies that I consulted with. And then I just wanted to just highlight some of the observations and recommendations that are in the report. I'm not going to highlight all of them, but just a few of them that I thought were important. And so in the report, we highlighted that invasive species they're a critical threat to Palau, both terrestrial and marine, that we need to continue to focus our efforts in. Even though there's a lot of terrestrial work, there's very little work on marine invasives, and that's something that we need to continue to discuss as a group. Palau has done a lot of work addressing invasive species, and we thank Dr. Miles and his work that he's done over the past years with partners and agencies that supported the work here in Palau. And so that has sort of brought us to where we are today. And some of these work are important and made a huge impact that we need to continue to strengthen those work that has made huge impact in the community and the work that we do in invasive species. Some of the enabling conditions were identified that included we need effective biodiversity, sustainable finance, community understanding and endorsement and participation are some of the key enabling conditions that will help us as we move forward with the work on invasive species. And just some of the opportunities that was also identified in the report is just the idea of opportunity to explore how we can scale eradication of rats and cats, evaluation of new technologies for mosquito suppression, and there's some technologies that I think our folks in Hawaii and California were engaging with other agencies, and there are new emerging technologies that are quite interesting and they look promising. Identification of tools for biocontrol, there's an opportunity there to look into those tools that are available that we can employ in the work that we're doing. And then maybe additional investment to new CRB methods that are being discussed in the region. And so just these are just some of the observation and highlights and some of the things that were highlighted in the reports. Like I said, the report goes into more detail, and so there's an opportunity for you to look into it if you haven't reviewed the report. And if there's an opportunity later in other meetings, we can have some of our folks in California and Hawaii, Nick Holmes and Alex, to join the meeting on Zoom and kind of explain some of the recommendations that they made in those reports. So hindi kay gid ako what I had for the report. And if you have any questions or requiring clarification or just comment in general, I'm more than happy to take them. And if I can answer, I'll answer. If not, I'll reach out to Alex and Nick and get back to you. question. It's a quiet group today. Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Cabo.
So after this reporting, is there like next action steps that need to happen? Ugh.
So the report has been submitted to the Office of the President, to the Office of the Minister, and Ngayal and Bureau of Agriculture have had an opportunity to review. We've had, or there has been a discussion at a higher level. NOAA and the President and the Minister have had this discussion, and I think it's around where can we provide further support. And so internally, the Nature Conservancy is looking internally with the capacity and the recommendation. And I think we should be ready in the coming months to, if there's any response from the Office of the President, this is these recommendations are we accept them, we don't, and if we do, what TNC can support, and we'll be ready to provide that response. I hope in the coming months. There are some stuff that are very clear that we cannot support because we don't have the technical expertise locally and out or within TNC globally. And there's clear things that we can already see that we can support. So I think we're just at a point where we just need to have that discussion again at the higher level. And then once that decisions are made, that will say, yes, these are the recommendations we're going to be taking on, then I think it will transcend to this committee, and we'll probably have a discussion and we'll say what part of these recommendations are we taking on and focusing on and working collaboratively in this group to address those. But Ngayal can maybe respond to the government side of things.
Maybe before Nayal gets started, this is Anu. You'll see on your agenda today, I hope everybody has the agenda, that I asked for an agenda item to be added, which is agenda item number, I don't know, it's down on the bottom. A policy, propose a policy and a NISSAP. This came about partially because of the scoping report and partially because of other things, but we've determined the need or a gap is that the national policy, we don't have these national level priorities yet quite, and we don't have a policy. So we were realizing we didn't have a policy basis to require a few things. And then as we thought about that, we thought, okay, well, we need to incorporate the scoping report. So that's an example of an activity that has come out of the scoping report and the way that it's being kind of internalized here at the ministry. So I will sign, I'm going to go back on mute and I'll turn it back over to Nayal.
Tokang, by any chance, do you have a copy of it? Oh, okay.
Right, and I have that. I have a copy of that. It was in and you have a copy of it. It's in the compilation that you gave us.
It's just that. Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I think that's a great starting point, but we would need to add on to it.
Okay, all righty. Okay, so if anyone don't have any more questions or comments, then we'll go down to business. And the first one is the executive order. Our last meeting, with Lina, the acting director of Bureau of Environment, because invasive species program has moved to the BOE instead of BOA. So Lina now is our acting director, and we went over the executive order and membership, and there was a lot that regarding membership and stuff that we wanted to Lina. So we wanted to update the executive order and include, am I saying this right, Anu? Like the technical group. Because according to the executive order, there's 9. Oh. There's 8 official members, I think, on the executive order. And then with our membership now, there's a lot of organizations and agencies that are involved with the NISC. And the discussion came up that will sorry. Hello?
We can hear you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, a discussion came up with Lina about instead of adding more people to the executive order, we'll just keep that, but add a technical group. Anu, can you explain that better? I think
Sure.
I'm getting all this stuff.
Yeah, and I'll address Heather's question also. So the last meeting, the last official meeting was several months ago, I think June maybe. And yes, it was discussed, and yes, we were supposed to have updated the executive order back then. Long story short, we did not get it updated. In the interim, the government has reorganized, and now that the reorganization is complete, now is the time to push through that executive order. That said, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here with you real quick. That said, okay, so we're thinking to just not move, the executive order that is now, can you all see that? I assume you can, but let me see if I can make it a little bit bigger. There we go. All right, so this is what we're proposing. The executive order that now stands, these are the 9 members. So OERC would become Bureau of Environment, BOA would remain the chair, BMR becomes BOF. The executive order names MOJ, but we are saying to make it very specific that it's MOJ Fish and Wildlife. EQPB would stay the same. The existing executive order names Ministry of Finance. We're saying to make it very specific that it becomes the Bureau of Customs and Border Protection, specifically Biodiversity Division. DH stays the same, PCS. And then the NISC coordinator would remain as the ex officio. So this is just an update to the existing executive order, given the new government reorganization. And then what we are proposing is making it official, that we have a technical group that includes the NGO and semi-government partners, such as yourselves, since most of the people on this call, I believe, are from this technical group. That would include these organizations. So PICRIC, and then PICRIC's semi-government partner would actually be BNM, TNC, IC, CRF, and then RISC. We saw, we weren't really sure where to put RISC, so we thought, okay, the technical group. But we kind of wanted to formalize this given the attention that that invasive species need to play. I'm going to stop screen sharing unless everybody wants to see anything more. Okay, I'm going to stop screen sharing. Come back here. Let me check the comments to see what you wrote while I was doing that. Hold on. Why am I having trouble looking at your chats? Okay, I think I've addressed all of the, no, okay, hold on. Except I'd really like to see Minister as the chair. NISC at the present doesn't have high level membership. It's certainly something that we could propose. I doubt that he would take that on. He would probably just assign it back out. Any other comments? Two new messages. Okay, I'm going to go back on mute. Nayal, I'm going to have you take over.
Okay.
We can hear you.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, so next on the agenda is the blacklist and risk assessment. I know we've gone over these two a couple of times, but we never got everyone's agreement on it, and we've been sharing it back and forth. So if anyone has comments, suggestions, or anything, Dr. Miles, I read yours, so I'll put up, yeah. I'll incorporate them into the list. And we don't have a blacklist because our last NISC meeting, we decided to just do the, we don't have a whitelist because our last NISC meeting, we decided to just do the blacklist for now since it's easier. And the whitelist will be a long compilation of what's enterable and yeah. So if all of you went through it or have comments and suggestions, you can just edit it and send it back, or if it's okay with you, especially with the risk assessment. Okay. If anything, I think email. And it will be a lot of help from everyone to get it done and get it out of the way, so we won't be dragging it for how many months more. Anu, do we have a deadline for those?
Deadline for the risk assessments?
Risk assessment and the blacklist.
I mean, for the Jeff 6 project, they're past due. If we can get, I think, I don't know, I'm not the expert on this, so whatever you think is reasonable.
I've never done this as well, so I don't know, because it's just updating it and incorporating what the members are suggesting and having them approving it. So thank you, Yvonne.
Can I say something? You guys hear me? Hello?
We
Just
can
go
hear you.
ahead, Sharon.
Oh, okay. So I'm using two earphones, so I can't tell. For the marine document, I think there's an error for table 2 that says species that are already established in Palau. Also, I agree with Dr. Miles with the word established. Maybe we can find something else. Below water lettuce, you have all mollusks, all crustaceans, all algae, echinoderms, cnidarians. I don't think those should be in that table, right?
Okay, so I just take them off. Okay.
Yeah, delete those.
Since we already have it on the, okay. So the one with the all everything.
Yeah, I think those were meant to be.
Yeah, I don't remember why we put them in there when we came to
No.
your office and.
No, because I believe so. You should have a table of stuff that's already in Palau that's present, but you should also
Oh, so
have
that's
another
very
table.
specific.
Yeah, so I think the
Mhm.
all mollusks, all crustaceans, etc. I think those should be under a different table that was like all subject to assessment or to permits. I think that was what we were
Okay,
going for. Yeah,
okay.
so that should be 2 tables then.
Table 2. Thank you, Sharon.
No problem.
I'm taking notes. Can I just double check that I captured all this correctly? Dr. Miles sent his comments by email. Heather is sending hers by email. Just email it to everyone, please. Yvonne is sending her comments by email. She's also going to send it back out to her colleagues in Hawaii, California. Sharon's comment is that the list of marine species should be deleted from the existing table and put into a new separate table subject to assessment. Did I capture everything? If I didn't, you can email. All right.
Thank you. Anything else? Yeah, you did, and I put the all comments in because we were supposed to have another meeting after our last, but because of the restructuring, we had to postpone a bunch of stuff. So we'll just I'll just try to incorporate them now and make changes, and then I'll send it back out. Yeah. Okay, if there's nothing else, we'll move on to the next on our agenda, which is the, oh. I know you already touched into that. Do you just want to go back to it again?
Oh, sorry, where are we on this? No, aren't you doing, the next thing on the agenda is risk assessment.
Yeah.
I don't have anything to add to risk assessment.
Okay. So we can just use the same one with their scoring as well, ito ka? Okay.
I'll just get chat to open as a separate thing.
Anyone else has comments or suggestions on the risk assessment? Yeah, the risk assessment I did was pretty much mostly out of the Hawaii one, but I just took out a few things. Okay.
Dr. Miles, can you send a link for that risk assessment? So we can look at it. I can look at it with Pat and Lori.
The one that I have is pretty much just a shorter version of the Hawaii one, because I just used the Hawaii one to try to create one for Palau. I just took out some stuff and changed because of the climate stuff on it. When I was asked to do the risk assessment, I tried to find what was closest to our climate and everything. And the Hawaii one was the closest that I got. So I just took it and then took out a bunch of stuff from it and kept most of them. But if everyone agrees with just using the Hawaii one, it's okay because that way we won't have to do. Okay, it's the same. It's just for weeds, plants.
So Nayal, I have a question.
Yeah.
Do we need to have a different kind of risk assessment for animals or other types of living creatures that might come in?
Well, I would think so because their living arrangements and stuff like are different. Unless we can tweak it to include everything, then we can just use that one.
Given that, so we should have a Palau specific form like you've made. Perhaps it's based on plant pono for plants, but something that standardizes the approach to animals and other pathogens that might come in. So perhaps, Snail, if you could take a look at those forms and see if they can be modified for animals and other things, that might be the best way forward. So perhaps the decision is that plants, we rely on the assessments out of the HWRPA, and otherwise animals, and other living organisms, we go with some sort of specific Palau specific risk assessment. It's my suggestion.
Okay.
I also wonder if part of what, following up with Anu, should there be a different form for marine animals or just animals in general? So that if somebody, like thinking about the process, right? If somebody wants to bring in something, they first say, is it a plant or is it an animal? And then there's a different set of form for those two different kingdoms. Instead of having them all in one long form, you can break it down so that it's easier for people. If they want to import an animal, they find animal and then it breaks it down even more, at least with the form process, down to, is it marine or is it terrestrial? And then you pick whichever forms apply.
Yeah, because when I was yeah, Sharon, when I was doing the risk assessment, like I try to find one to at least have something for animals, but I couldn't find any. Like most of the ones that I read were just the vet does those. Like if someone brings something in, the vet comes to the airport and they do all the assessment and stuff. So I'm not sure if you want to do that for Palau or you want to have a separate form that the government has.
There are some things on this risk assessment form that can apply to animals, like, for example, you know, has the species been introduced into other areas? That can be applied to animals,
Oh,
but
okay.
some things like, does it produce spines, thorns, or burrs? Maybe not. So maybe you can, or like, is it in, what's the other ones that you can, nitrogen fixing woody plant? That definitely doesn't apply to animals. So maybe there can be, it can be modified to be specific to just
Okay.
animals. So then when you go through the process in the future, there's one specific for animals, one specific for plants.
Okay.
Picking up on Dr. Miles saying 60 pages of risk assessment for introduction of tilapia, I suggest you find that and apply that here in Palau, please.
So if I can maybe summarize, this is a new, it's not that these forms capture all the risks of each species. It's that we have a process that any organism coming in will follow, and it's a standard structured process. Kind of like for the EIS, there's a flow chart that says, if this is a possibility, then this EA or EIS is required. So if for animals, plants, etc., if we can come up with that flow chart that then sends you down a really structured set of activities, either this assessment for plants or this assessment for animals, maybe it needs to be done by a professional, etc., then that might be the outcome that we can get to in the short term. Let me just see these other comments here. Okay. Okay, I'm assuming Heather's suggestion. Standard operating procedures, yes, okay. So now basically that's the outcome of this part of this discussion, is that it goes back on our to-do list. These forms can't just be signed off on. We need to look at what comes, where these forms fit in a process. and
Yeah.
see if they fit. Now sending it back to you.
Can you repeat that? Sorry. Can you all hear me? Okay. Anybody else has last minute, not last minute, comments before we move to the next part of our agenda? Sorry, I'm writing and taking notes and okay, so if there are no more comments and suggestions, let's move on to the next on our agenda, which is the NISSAP as a policy.
Do you mind if I go?
Yeah,
Okay, I'm going to turn my video back on again and I will share my screen in a minute. Okay, so we were putting together some, let me back up. The Bureau of Tourism and PVA are putting together a certification system for tourism, and it's funded by Jeff Six. And as we're working with them on this, we realized that we didn't have a very clear policy basis with which to require certain, we have no way to require native plants, for instance, and we, unless it's listed specifically in the existing unless it's listed specifically in the existing plant and animal quarantine regulations, or some existing legislation, we don't have any policy basis to require that a species be avoided. So we wanted to develop a policy, starting off as a ministerial level policy. And then from there, take a look at whether it can become a national level policy. In which case that a policy would kind of supersede the NISSAP in that the NISSAP would be a way to implement such a policy. And so what we're doing is we're starting off with what is legally mandated or legally what's established by law first, and then from there add on what we can. So black and white lists, if they're approved by the minister under the biosecurity legislation, would then be approved. Anyhow, so very, very high level outline for such a policy, what the national government commitments are. These would be the existing legal commitments sort of copied out of the biosecurity legislation, and why. Then what national government operating policies would be, what our international policy implications would be, as in what international conventions have we already signed, and what are the commitments that are already made, what is the established policy basis, national laws and state laws. This is where MAIF can make action policies. So we, not only prioritizing actions, but also prioritizing what our partners can and can't do based on whether they're getting sub-grants. That's really the only kind of policy level capabilities that we have until such policy becomes a higher level document. This is where we would establish and set national priorities, either out of the black and white lists or referring to the black and white lists or something. This is where we would set targets. So we don't quite have national targets, other than, we would need to set targets like certain species eradicated or certain species controlled in certain numbers of hectares, that kind of thing. Definitions and then institutional arrangements. So that's a very broad, high level outline for a policy. We want to keep it very short, but very clear. So it's clear what is legally allowable under national law or state law, and then what is legally allowable under MAIF policy, and then what's allowable under MAIF sort of financial policy, and then what is planned for as a priority. So then the NISSAP would actually come in as implementation of such a policy. I'm going to stop sharing because I can't see comments while I'm sharing. So that's a new document that we're thinking of writing. Not thinking that we are writing, or we will be writing. So that's it for me.
Anu, who
Yeah.
will be drafting this?
I'm taking the lead on it for now.
Okay. Yeah, I was looking at the brackets, and targets seem a little bit, I don't know what's the correct word. I mean, how do you, okay, so it's easy for solar energy, right? You're like, by 2022, you get 45% solar energy, right? But I'm trying to grasp how you do targets for invasive species, because total eradication is hard. Control, I don't know how you measure that. I mean, how are we going to measure these things?
I don't know. I guess we'll kind of see, but like for instance, I did there was a report produced recently that looked at invasive species in different states in Babaldob, and it said, okay, actually there seems to be a hot spot in this one area. So it might be that our target in the next few years is that hot spot, you know, controlling it in that hot spot. Or we might say that our targets are keeping things, oh, I had started to draft it. So for instance, target could be keeping invasives off those islands where it's already been eradicated, or that might be priority. I'm not sure. But I think that in this entire move towards results-based planning, we really should try and set some targets, because how can we measure ourselves and our success if we don't have targets to set against? So I think that as part of any policy, the policy sets kind of rules and regulations and what's allowed and what's not allowed, but our plans, I think, need to be the kind of plans where we can go out and say, yes, it worked or it didn't work. So that's why it'll be a more of a measurable type thing.
And will your targets be across the different habitats? Like, will we cover marine, plants, and terrestrial animals, or will we just pick the highest priority?
I don't know yet. We're not there. We're not there yet. So we started by looking at the NISSAP and said, okay, it needs an update, which we all know. And it not only an update in terms of activities, but an update in terms of what those activities will achieve. And those are the targets. So we need to incorporate that across the board. And it should be that the target is set, and then we develop our activities to meet that target.
Okay, thank you for answering my question. Makes sense.
But that's the kind of thing where we'll need your technical expertise to set. So I'm not going to try and just pull targets out of thin air. Either they will be out of existing work, or if we don't know it, then we'll come to you and get that kind of input. Okay, so yeah, policy is really in the beginning stages. So that's it for me. I'm gonna go back on mute. Now back to you.
Thank you, Anu. And anyone has any more comments or suggestions? Okay, the last on our agenda is incorporating the scoping report, which Anu already covered. Unless you want to add anything else, Anu.
No, nothing for me, except that the scoping report seems to have already set some priorities, right? So the scoping report has basically said that fruit flies, CRB, rats, cats, and what's the other one, are important. And you know, should the national priorities reflect that, I think is still up in the air, but that is definitely a starting point. Macaques.
Anyone else want to say something? That's all we have for our businesses, and the next one is to set up a day for our next meeting.
Are we meeting in 6 months? Is that the right time?
Yeah, from our last meetings, we decided for 3 months, but we can change that, and unless you all want something different.
Sorry. Okay, it is 3 months. I thought it was 6. Yeah, 3 months. 3 months is good for me.
Oh, by the way, I'm just seeing Heather's comment here. I went to Angar last week and I went into the state office and asked specifically, and there is no state law creating a macaque sanctuary. That was just an idea, but there is nothing on paper, is what they told me.
So we've been hearing all about monkey sanctuary, but then there's nothing written about it.
Correct.
Are you unmuting me, Anu?
Yes, Gwen, I'm unmuting you. So as the kind of acting chair of the NISC, I just wanted to see if you had any input. Yeah,
You're
go for it.
forced to have an input.
I am forcing you to have some input. All right, go for it. Go ahead.
Can I just say hi and that's it? Because no, I mean, no, thank you for the presentations and for the discussion. And as I'm listening to the discussion, I realize we do have a lot to work out, because part of basically the role of addressing invasives has been split into 3 different bureaus. Well, BOA is okay with giving it to BOE, but these are things that we have to consider, because of course biosecurity itself is with the Bureau of Finance. Now invasive species is with the Bureau of Environment, but the regulation gives the power and authority to the Bureau of Agriculture. So I'm still trying to, I mean, we will continue to work, but my job right now is basically just trying to being able to find support for you guys. And I also comment on what Dr. Miles said about the minister chairing the NISC. I would have to leave that to Lena, but that's, how often is the NISC expected to meet?
Quarter.
Okay, Dr. Miles says quarterly. So if it's quarterly, then I guess that's reasonable for the minister. Yeah, because if it was more than that, I would probably say it's better that the director have the director be the chair, and then just have a quarterly or a semi-annual meeting with the minister to bring up issues that is needed. But if it's quarterly, I think it should be manageable for him.
Yeah, and
that's
Gwen,
about all the comments I had for now.
okay.
Yes, Anu?
Just in going back to that, should the minister chair it? I'm just going to notice that a lot of the participants in this call are our NGO partners or our retiree partners, and the government NISC members. I see what, two, three, Maith, plus we have Division of Environmental Health on the call. So our government membership is not here and should be. So, you know, we might think if the minister is chairing it, that might elevate it to the point where the other government members are more likely to join the call. So, or more likely to come to meetings. And that's just something to think about. Of course, right now being COVID, we don't know what everybody's going through. So we're going to give them the benefit of the doubt. But yeah, we want to do something to bring in the actual members. And I'm off.
That is true. We have not, I mean, NISC has not been active for quite a while, so bringing in the minister would help. Yeah, but I know that if it's quarterly, as I said, if it's quarterly, that's manageable for him. But if it's more than that, or like monthly or anything, then most likely he will start deferring it to someone. But other than that, I think the minister would be good to chair the NISC, just like how he does the NEPC. Hello?
Okay. All right. Thank you, Gwen. Thank you for accepting my voluntold unmuting there. So thanks. If that's it for you, I'm
Thank you.
going to allow you to go back on mute. I'm going back on mute.
Should I set up another Google call for everyone's availability? Like how I did the first setup for the meetings, do a Google call to get everyone's availability.
Sorry, I'm not understanding what you're saying. Are you saying for April or sometime soon?
Yeah, for April. For
April. I mean, hopefully by April, we'd be able to meet in person, but if necessary, we can always do Zoom. My suggestion is to look at the end of April. After spring breaks and things. I don't know when those are. How about very last week of April? How about April 28th? April 25. or 27? I feel like Mondays are not as good as Wednesdays. I don't know. Let's go with April 27 for now. Okay. Oh, hey, before we close, Loy, is there anything that you can share with us about the upcoming eradication and what it might look like?
Okay, thank you, Anu. Hi, everyone. Wait, let me just. So yes, in spite of this COVID, we're still preparing for eradication this coming March in Ulong, rat eradication, and not just Ulong, but maybe the two smaller islands in Along too as well, because they also have been having a lot of rats in those islands. So we're trying to do all the project on March and April. This time we'll be using drones for the operation. So yeah, we're hoping that we can accomplish that this coming months with this COVID going on. And then I do hope that we can also reach out before the project to work with partners as we be dealing with a lot of biosecurity work and whatnot. So we'll also be reaching out to other partners. So please, it's not just us, but let's work together to accomplish this if possible, Anu. And PCS, of course, with your help. Ali?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. It's so quiet. It's like, am I talking to myself?
Yes. Yeah. When do you plan to start your kind of public campaign, safety campaign, have people, when will the kind of the prohibitions on harvesting take effect, and how long will those be in effect for? That kind of thing.
Okay, so in December we did like a press release just to announce that we're gonna be doing that. But as for the date, we still need. You know that the Koror state just had a new administration, so we still need to meet the new governor and just kind of give them an update of what's coming up. And with him, maybe we'll set up more. We'll set dates for that, and then we'll also do a public. We'll do the public announcements as well.
Okay.
But for now, it's For now, it's kind of on hold because of a lot of the staff, the DCLA staff are quarantined. So it's a little bit hard to move things now, but we'll try maybe next week. I mean, the time is going as we speak, but yeah, we'll try our best and yeah.
Yeah, because you would want to have I think everybody in the NISC can really help with outreach and awareness to keep everybody safe during the actual eradication, considering the harvesting. And we know that over there is a pretty important fisheries location. And so the fishing will be banned for some certain amount of time, right?
Mm-hmm. And crabbing.
Okay, and then of course, after that investment, we would want to all help with the biosecurity awareness that needs to come. So if you could just keep us as up to date, obviously this eradication, there won't be, if you want to call a special meeting or anything, you can do that. But yeah, if you could just keep us all up to date so we can help you assist with the outreach and education of biosecurity, then that's the kind of thing that the NISC is here for.
Oh, great. Yes, I'll do that. I'll definitely do that. Thank you.
Okay, sorry, I threw that last thing in there. So Nayal, back over to you.
Okay, before we close, does anybody else want to add anything? Okay, thank you everyone. Since no one has anything else, and thank you Anu for setting up the meeting. And we scheduled our next meeting for the end of April on the 27th, which is a Wednesday.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you everyone, and motion to adjourn. We'll set it up before then, Anu.
Yeah,
We'll just have it afternoon as well.
we'll set the time closer. Okay, everyone, I'm gonna end the meeting. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.